Okay, folks. Thank you for your patience during that momentary technical glitch that we had. We're just a bunch of guys who like Issuetrak, and we're not exactly Zoom experts all the time, but we have fun playing around. So I'm going to take you into IC assets, and I'm going to show you a little bit about issues and assets now. It's what I'm planning on doing at the next portion of it. You went back into that service request that we had earlier, and you saw where we had the actual asset record. So let's see, entered by me. So I'm going to pop that up. Here's the guy's equipment. And you saw where my asset here record was associated with the issue. Well, we've done that because we've set up the help desk user, which is the Mike Wright user, to actually show up as being the default. So in this particular case, the user that has been submitted at Mike Wright has this asset associated. Well, let's go take a look at how that's done. I go into asset management, and I go in here, and I've got two laptops, and one of those laptops is the one that's actually assigned to me. Come on, there we go. And there it is, 6 CPQ. This is an asset record. And how this asset record, I'll show you in just a minute, because I'm going to actually run our Track PC program in order to show you how this record was created by our IT team. So here you'll see that I am associated with this particular record. It's been set to default, and assets can be set to default or not. I may have I've got two monitors, I've got a laptop in here, I've got a keyboard, I've got a headset, I've got a whole collection of assets. And that's pretty normal these days when we're working remote, where a company will provide us with the assets to do our job. So what we do then is we can associate those assets to a user so we know who has ownership. But the only asset that I want to report on initially for problems is the laptop, because that's my key piece that I'm doing business with. So I've got it set as my default asset. So any issue that I put in, say, into our incident management site is going to automatically associate with that particular asset. And from that point, then I know exactly, who it belongs to, what organization, what department can be brought in, because when I associate it with the user, if I have an organization or department, I can associate all that information here, manually updating, of course, or adding it from the user profile. In this particular case, I'll just put it in here on the information technology. And then I can say, okay, the location on this one, of course, is my house, but I'm just going to go ahead and say headquarters. My wife would say it's probably the headquarters of our life. So therefore, there it is. So then we can put in phone numbers, and I can have contact information. Now, normally this information would pull in directly. So you associate the user, and if this information is part of the user profile, it's going to pull that information directly over from the user profile that's associated in Issuetrak. And you see I can remove the default profile on here also if I need to do that. Now, let's talk a little bit about how this particular asset was created. One of the things that we have within Issuetrak is the Track PC and Scan PC capability. The asset management comes with an executable file, and that executable file that can be downloaded directly into your machine. For example, I'm going to download the Scan PC, and I'm going to save it, and then I'll be able to run it. And now it's executing here. And it goes in, you'll see a little window that shows up in here that goes through the command functions, and you'll see it goes pretty quickly and provides us with information related to the PC. This is usually very, very quick, depending on network traffic and things like that. But it'll go ahead and execute the Track PC and then post the information back as an XML file, as you can see right here. And it's posting it directly back to my website, wherever that happens to be. And I'm going to get rid of that. And then what happens within the asset management module, it's going to go to Track PC here. And because this asset already exists, it didn't create an access record. Instead, what it did, it had a matching record that already exists, and it posts another asset record for it. So essentially, it's another posting of an update to the asset record. And then This can manually be applied, or it can go ahead and be done automated. So we can do it either way. When I do the manual update like this, it'll go ahead and then flash and go away. Now, when I go back here and I go back to my asset records, and I'll go back to my number 2, I'll find my record here again. I can view the audits, and I can see the time and date stamps of the actual audits that have been performed. And you can see here's one that was performed today. I click here and you get the information that's actually brought in from the asset record. This is an XML file, as I said, and then this is all the information that we're pulling. All of that information then is uploaded to the asset record because it matches on criteria that we set up. And the setup criteria a lot of times has to do with individual identifying information such as serial numbers and MAC addresses, computer names, those like that. And there's even a weighted way we do that so that we can make sure we get the right asset. Once that information is updated, then I have updated information on the audited side of my asset record. Now I'm going to edit this real quick. So things like the serial number have been pulled. I'll go back over here and have the make and model of the actual machine. So the manufacturer, here's the model number, here's audited information related to the operating system in here. We have memory information that's brought over, BIOS information, motherboard data, enclosure data, display data, even the active NIC, because this is a laptop. It has more than one NIC, more than one MAC address, because it has both a network adapter card and it also has a wireless card. And it could have sometimes I've run into them with 2 or 3 records for the NIC. We're running the active NIC. Is what we apply. In addition to that, it's looking at the software that's brought on this machine, and it goes ahead and brings in all the registry information of the software. In some cases, it'll read additional information, and if you do see it, it'll be depicted here. It also shows the processes running at the time. Now, the other thing that's important, and I'm going to go back to view, is down at the bottom, you're also going to see something that's not available for editing, which is the startup software. So it tells you what software that's actually starting up on this machine, so it can help you with troubleshooting in case it has a problem with hanging it up. You know exactly what the startup software is on that particular record. Then you can go in and manually make changes like this. So once I get the record created, then I can come down here at the bottom and I can add in purchase information, as well as maintenance information. So if I've got a maintenance company, if I've got a service contract, I can put this in here and run reports off of it. So that then I can help with budgeting information, know that I spent this much money in January 2020. I need to spend X amount of money in January 2025 when this particular laptop expires, and nearly we want to replace it in our planned obsolescence. So we may want to run reports based off of that. In addition to that, you see at the bottom, I can add comments. So I can just write comments, or I can go in and add time and date stamped notes. For example, I happen to know that I purchased this Fences software for my personal laptop. So I can put a note on here to record that so that I know it's something unusual that happened. It wasn't part of the normal maintenance. It was something that we ended up doing for this particular installation to make my life a little bit easier. But as you see, there's a lot of information that is right here, and a lot of this has been brought over automated. Now, you can always go in and manually add an asset. And in some cases, you want to do that because the Track PC program is basically for Windows-based PCs and for Macs. We can use it for both. So if you happen to be using servers that are IBM servers or Linux servers, then we're not going to be able to automate those. However, you can manually add those records in here, and you can decide how much information you want. If you want to add them as a non-PC asset, which means you won't get all of the information down here at the bottom. So it stops right above make model number. This would be a non-PC asset. We don't have any of this information on a non-PC asset. So we drop that, and I'll show you an example of that in a minute, because I want to talk about it just really quickly. A non-PC asset, you can also import using our import template from KB article 1985. And we can go ahead and help you with an import of assets that are non-PC assets in the system. So that's another capability that we can help you with. Just go ahead and contact the support team for information related to that. That really helps you on things like printers, monitors, servers, printers, monitors, cell phones, anything you're trying to track. Because honestly, an asset is whatever you decide it to be. I've done a little bit of everything. So, and it's something that we can pretty easily do for you, but you get in contact with the support team. They'll give you the details of what needs to do. The information related to that particular KB article is also pretty descriptive on what the process is. So the other thing that we can do is when I go back to the view capability here is I can see some information related to that asset. As you saw, I pulled up the view audits. So if you wanted to go back and take a look at older audits, a lot of times what I'll end up doing is I'll use that scan PC functionality in order to go ahead and get a baseline of when that particular asset was first on the desk in the IT team. So for example, my laptop came to my IT team first to make sure it was configured for use on my network. When I do that, then I'll run scan PC before I even issue it to the user. I get a baseline. And then I may run track PC, which is a more as an automated functionality within Issuetrak. So we'll go in here just so you can see, you go to track PC audit. It runs essentially the same program, but it does it in a more automated fashion. So for example, we can then execute this particular statement, whether it happens to be within a batch file or happens to be in a network login, then we can go ahead and execute this and run this on a schedule basis. You can run it on a network login. You can also run it on a schedule. And that way you can have track PC run in the background and automate the collection of the data for you. So that gives you good capability of running this particular asset identification script in a lot of different ways. And again, contact your support team for additional assistance and help with that if you need it. But the information is right here. There's even frequency switches that you can use on this if you need to. Let me close this back down. So we'll go back to the assets again. We'll take a look at my laptop. Come up here, there we go, and go back in one more time. And then of course, there's an issue history. So here's the one that said replace equipment. So when I associate an asset to an issue, then what I've done is giving you a history of some of the problems that are related to that asset. Maybe I've got a troublesome asset. And when I open this up, instead of having 1 or 2 requests in here, it's got 15 or 20. And it's all over the place. It's a network problem. It seems to be a wireless connector problem. It's a problem with the hard drive. It's another problem with the hard drive. It's a problem with memory. It's another problem with memory. It's a problem with the operating system crashing. It's a whole list of problems. Well, you know what you need to do with that one? You need to take it out of service and you need to replace it because it's costing you more money to work on than it is for you to own the daggum thing. So that's what you're trying to do, is you're trying to actually identify 2 things. Cost of ownership is a big part of this. Cost of ownership has to do with not only the cost of the laptop, but the cost of the service request that comes up on here too. Now this goes for anything. It could be facilities management. It could be tracking school buses. Sometimes things just get to a point that they cost you more money than they're worth. It's time to replace them. The other thing is it can also help you when you're trying to look for a problem related to this asset. Maybe in the past we had a hardware failure, and then essentially we replaced the hard drive. And we happen to not do a good job of updating all the drivers. And now a week, 2 weeks later, we're having some problems with this particular machine. It's not operating right. So we went back, we put a hard drive in there. Let's check the drivers. Let's see if we made sure we updated all the right stuff when we did this. So it can give your help desk people keys to look for problems. So it gives you that information for you to look at in order to make it useful tool. So that's why the whole key in here is that we're looking at this from an asset perspective, not an issue perspective here. It changes the perspective within the same software because Issuetrak is mostly about issues, but in this particular case, it's about the asset. And we're using the issues in order to identify the problems in the asset, fix the asset, put it on the ticket, and send it back to the user. So it gives you that capability. Other information that you might want to look at, for example, all of this information is available in the reporting tools of Issuetrak. So you can go in and look at the issue and the asset information or the asset information alone. I may want to report on all of the machines that say have memory less than 16,154. Or I may want to go in and look which machines have operating systems in here that are not Windows 10. Well, I can go in and do that either from the search assets capability or from the report writer reports and just do a report of all of the OSs that are out there. Within this capability also, I can even create nomenclature that makes sense for me because you have both an audited capability and a specified capability. You'll see that here in certain fields where, you know what, this is nice to know this as this name, but you know, I just prefer to use it as Windows 10 64-bit. I can switch this over, or I can go over to the specified. I don't want to call it Dell Inc. I just want to call it Dell. This is going to be an XP13. It doesn't, I don't care about the 2-in-1 and the 7390. I just want to call it an XPS13. It just depends on what you want to call it. That's what the specified values are in here for, is so that you can create terms that make sense to your terminology within your IT team. It makes it then an ability for you to go to things like the search capability within Issuetrak and take a look at this based off of both audited, and I'm going to make this into a search. I went to the wrong one. Whoopsie. Assets and search assets. So I'm going to include my PC fields in here, which a lot of times you're going to see is going to have both specified and audited capability. So you can look for either one. When you get down here to software title, I'm going to show you how you can actually associate software registry entries with a software title and why that's important. Because one of the things also that you want to do is you want to know what software you have across your install base, how many are installed, how many you've purchased, how many are available, also what's out there. So for example, I'm going to go back in here at the top and I'm going to go to my asset tables, and the asset tables is where you're defining a lot of your defaults for your setup. Approval statuses, your asset statuses, so you want to know if something is lost or stolen, donated, whatever it happens to be. You can add those in, they're yours. You create your types, whatever they're going to be. The only types we're shipping right now is Mac and PC. Other than that, it's up to whatever you want to track. And then you get down here to things like software registry. The software registry, in this particular case, is about 168 entries. I've seen upwards of 2,000 and 3,000 in here, because what it is, it's a living history of the registry entries that have been brought out through the history of your Track PC program. Track PC program is added every time it does a Track PC audit. It's adding new registry entries when you've done an upgrade. For example, if you happen to have an upgrade from this one, G Suite migration from Microsoft went from 4.6 to 4.2. So it's gone ahead and updated that information as go along. So it looks like there was another one, 4.2.7. So we've had 3 different generations of the same software as it's been updated, just like Issuetrak does. Changes in capabilities, bug fixes, modifications, whatever it happens to be. Another one that's like that is here with GoToMeeting. We've had 2 different versions of that that's been recorded in here. Internet Explorer. We've got 2 or 3 or 4. Now on Internet Explorer, you see something unusual. You see both a registry entry and you see what we call a software title. The idea behind that is to be able to provide reporting based off the title, not so much the individual registry entry. Sometimes it's about licensing because we license it by the title, not by the registry entry, because the same license covers every instance of that registry entry. It's been upgraded to different versions, but the license is still covered under one entry in Internet Explorer. So here, what we can do is we can then associate that particular section here. So we can go in here and we say, okay, Internet Explorer, where are you in your list? There you are. We're going to now associate this registry entry down here at the bottom, so they're all matching up. Now we have tools that allow you to do that. You can copy the title that you use. So 7-zip, for example, could go ahead and become a software title. We can then go ahead and link the titles that we create, so we can filter our data. So when we go link titles, and I'll do something like Microsoft, then it'll filter the information. So you're not looking through the entire list, you're looking at a subset of them. And you can select the values that you would like to associate with a registry entry in here. So if I had one, say, for C++, I can go ahead and add one. And then I'll just put in Microsoft C++. And create an entry for it. Hit save. It's now in my list right there. And then I can come up here to the top and I say, you know what? I want to get all the C++ stuff under one entry. All I have to do is check the boxes. And just check them off. And then update them. So if it's anything that you don't want to manually add, you can do it. There you go. That's all C++. Then at the bottom, do the update. They will disappear from the list because now they're associated with the title. And then you can do other work with this. Sometimes what I'll do with some customers, and I've done in the past, is they wanted to get an idea if a software that was added to the system that wasn't authorized by the IT team. And what we did is we made sure that every software in the registry entries had an associated software title. And then we ran a report for all registry entries with software title as blank. And we were able to see, as our Track PC program ran, it was able to identify us on a report of anything that was brought in, and we considered to be illegal software because it was unapproved. So that if we went in and we created a brand new software and the IT team did it, we would go ahead and make sure the registry entry had a matching software title and it wouldn't come up on the report. That was in the days of Napster, where Napster was really important, and we had a lot of school systems that were being used, and they were actually doing things like adding those to lab machines so they could share music during class. So that was kind of dating me a little bit, but it does show you an example of how you can use the tool in order to do that. Other things that you can do related to this is go ahead and add in things like software histories, software purchase histories. In the software purchase histories, you can create a purchase record and you can associate it with a software title. Then what you can do from that point of view is you create the software title, you tell you how many licenses you purchased, and then I can go to the report section here and I can look at the software licenses summary and pull the information based off the software titles, how many licenses I have, how many licenses are installed, and how many are remaining. So that could be a plus or a negative. So if I'm actually associating this over and got everything set up right, which unfortunately this site is not exactly set up correctly, it would go ahead and give me pluses and minuses in here. So for example, if I didn't have enough licenses for Microsoft Office 2010, if I had, instead of having 500 licenses, I had 50 licenses and I've installed 55, I'm going to have a -5 over here. And the Microsoft police may have potential to come after me about it. So it gives you some nice capabilities in order to keep your tracking of your software purchases within this particular feature.
Hey, Mike, while you're on reports and
Yes,
assets, I got a question.
Mm-hmm.
I'm just going to read it straight the way it came in. Is there a way to create a report that will list assets and their tickets associated with them?
Sure.
Example, if I want to pull a report that will tell me what pager asset had tickets, so that I can determine and create a report on how many came back for repair last year?
Couple of different ways you can do something on a specific asset. I would probably recommend you use the issue search, because you can go directly to the issue search here. And in the asset management, one of the search criteria is going to be the asset number. So if you know the asset number,
I think this is going to be more asset type.
Okay.
The example was.
I'll get to that in just a
Okay.
second. I'll do the same thing.
Thank you.
But here, if it is an individual asset, then you can go ahead and select the individual asset. If you're going to want the report by asset type, then you will just use the issue, the report writer capability off the issues. And then what you can do is you can go ahead and build a query off the report here in order to gather everything by type. As an example, this one here is all assets. It's just a quick query, and I'm just going to run it. It doesn't have a lot of fields on it, but you can go in here, of course, and then you can filter this data however you want it. So here's all the asset types in here. And then if this is just asset information. So what you end up doing here is, instead of using the assets data set, you use the assets and issues data set. In some of these cases, we're using more than one, and I think it's called issues and assets right here. So here's the issues and assets data set. So it means it's issue information and asset data. So when I click this link, it's going to go ahead and give me fields in here related to assets. As you can see, HS asset, equipment. You keep going down here, assigned to, BIOS information, that's coming directly from that. Checked out information, that's coming from the assets. You go down here, of course, and you'll see more. Closed by, closed on, that's all issue record stuff. Computer name, asset information. Computer description, assets. Contact name, email, issue information. It's intermixed, and it's all in alphabetical order. So you would go ahead and select the asset type. So let's see. You would select the asset type. You would probably like to get the asset number, because that's a clickable link to the asset record. And then you can also definitely make sure you pick up the issue number. If you wanted to create a quick report just like that, and that's all you wanted it grouped by the asset type, you want to see the details of every issue, you want to see it size by size, you can do it really quickly. It's a very quick thing to do. There's the asset name, for example, and then I'll go down here to the issue number and pull that over. Alphabetical order. And there's the issue number right there. So if I want to pull more data, I could, but basically that's where I'm looking. And what I'm going to do in here is I'm going to go where asset number is not blank. The reason I want to do that is because I want to see only the ones with the asset number in the records. I save the filter expression, I hit next. And essentially I built that query right then and there. And of course, there's a clickable link to the issues. And of course, I can pull all the information I want. Now, to do something quick, I'll go into the report section and I'll do a new quick report off of that. Which one did I select? Oh, I call it test, didn't I? What did I just call the query? I lost my query name.
Mike, you can use mine. It's the last one on the list. It's on assets and issues.
Also. I think that's the one right there, Paul. Let me see. Run. Yeah, that's the one. I just want to do this one real quick, so I just forgot what I called it. So I'm doing a new assets issues. It's bringing everything over. And in this particular case, it's by type, asset name. I don't need the issue number. Now, if you want to get more information, of course, you can bring it over. And I'm grouping it double here so I can get it according to the type. Usually that query would be, you would go ahead and filter the query by cell phones, for example, as your asset type. In this particular case, I'm pulling everything over. And in this particular case, I'm going to do account. So I just want to know how many issues there are per type. Save and run. So I know how many issues. If I want to go to the details, then I would see the details in here, of course. So it's gone ahead and pulled everything together. But that's how quickly you can do a report based off of that, because the asset databases are in the report writer. Any other questions that are out there right now?
I think we've got them covered.
I don't want to run too long. I'm already running long. So I want to go ahead and kind of turn it over to you to go ahead and kind of wrap this thing up. So instead of going ahead and having a break, we're going to just run right into new capabilities. I've got John and Dan there on hand here. Their time is very important to me. So I apologize for taking so much time in order to run through some of these details. I get a little carried away sometimes and I forget about the timer. So y'all forgive me. But again, I want to turn this over now to Paul, and then Paul will go ahead and take us over to the new capabilities. And thank you for your time. And if you have any additional questions, just go ahead and post them into the question and answers. Thank you, everyone.
I almost hate to ask Mike, but could you make me the host?
I am on my way.
And thank you for a wonderful job. Lots of great detailed information for our listeners to dig into. And I hope everybody was listening and is trying to dig in there, or is digging in. All right, looks like I am the host, so I'm going to see if I can share my screen. And that should do it. Bring in my presentation here. And we're going to get to. So we've got a lot of big new things to talk about this month. Part of it because we didn't have a webinar last month to do some of these, but part of it is also because we have a lot of there's a lot of stuff. So let's just dig in here. The first thing I wanted to mention is our What's New page. And I've got it bookmarked right here. You can see the URL, but let me just bring that up right here. And this talks about most of what we're going to talk about, the really big changes. As you can see, one of the big things that we've added is support for Azure AD environments. And I'll get into that in a second. But we're also wanted to talk about some of the things that are coming in future versions of Issuetrak. We're going to make some changes to the issue screen and some changes to the way you navigate in Issuetrak. And that's why John and Dan are here. They wanted to be here to kind of answer questions about both of these huge improvements to Issuetrak. Now, before we get to the big stuff, I did want to mention one little feature that some of our customers are seeing that everybody has available that is on the most current version of Issuetrak, and that's the user profile updates, so alerts. So if somebody changes something in your user profile, you can tell Issuetrak to, hey, let that user know when I update his profile. And it's kind of a security thing, just to let people know when their user profile has changed. And then they can make the judgment about whether to raise a question about that or not. It's a security thing. And if you need that feature, we've got a great knowledge base article about the email settings page that you can view and learn how to turn that on. Or you can give our support team a call, or you can ask Mike or I. There we go. Now, let's get on to the big stuff here. The big thing is our first thing we wanted to talk about was Azure AD, right? And I wanted to skip a lot of my customers that I've kind of touted this to. They've asked me, what is Azure AD, right? And how do I know if I need to integrate to it, right? We have answered that question, right? Azure AD, the short version here. Let me see if I can get the get the idea open here. The short version, Azure AD used to be to have an Active Directory environment. You had to purchase a server, right? Or you had to get a virtual server, and then you had to install this AD stuff on it, right? So then you had to build your entire domain, and it was a lot of work to update and keep that server updated and protected behind a firewall. Whereas with Azure, it's a service from Microsoft where you don't need to maintain a server. It's serverless AD is kind of what it's known by. And there's this great article that's referenced in our blog post about Azure that tells you more about Azure AD. So I wanted to put that out there if anybody's confused about what Azure is. And we've got a great blog post about Azure AD. And if nobody's read the Issuetrak blog or ever looked at the Issuetrak blog, this is a great time to come and look at it. All you do is come out to issuetrak.com and click on this little option that says blog. Right? It doesn't get any simpler than that. All right, honestly. Now, and there's a great blog article from a couple of weeks ago, last month, about Azure AD, and you can read more about it there and kind of get into it. The big thing about Azure, it's a little different than connecting to a normal Active Directory domain. And if you guys have questions, the people to answer it are right here. It's those two guys, right, that kind of came in, our CEO, Dan, and our product owner, John, both well-versed in that. Now, the next thing I kind of wanted to get into, without kind of getting into the details, before we leave the Azure topic here, I want to make sure that you guys know that we have a Help Center article about Azure also. And once again, if you guys have not visited our Help Center, this is a great time to start. So let me click on my link here. And the Help Center is full of great articles that our whole team kind of collaborates on, and we all kind of get into about the different features of Issuetrak. So to go along with our new Azure integration, we created a knowledge base article, a Help Center article about it, pardon me. The Help Center is available from within your Issuetrak site by just clicking the circle with the question mark. So you can see here in the CS training site, you just click the little circle with the question mark, and I'm going to open it in a new tab. And you can search for any article, any topic that you want to see articles about. And in this case, AZURE, right? And there's our migrating to Azure and about Azure articles right there. Simple as pie. Now, so the Azure integration itself is available in the current version of Issuetrak, Issuetrak 12.8. So anybody that's on the latest version of Issuetrak can integrate with Azure AD. The best thing to do for more information or for help connecting to an Azure AD domain is to contact our support team. And I've got their contact information on the last of my slides here, but it's their phone number is 757-213-1351, or you can email them at support@issuetrak.com. And once again, I'll put those on screen towards the end of my presentation. All right, now let's get out of Azure. And Azure, that's a big deal, right? We've never had that connectivity, and it kind of opens the door for other types of connectivity too, for us to add later, because of the way we had to kind of build that. Now, the next thing I kind of wanted to introduce is the navigation changes that are coming to Issuetrak. And this is kind of a big deal. I wanted to take you guys, there's a page on our website. And you guys know, if you guys haven't noticed, if you guys haven't ever listened to me in the webinars, I always tell everybody, go to our website, click around, use the different features and different pages that are out there to kind of find out what's going on, kind of find out about these features. And this month, we want to talk about the What's New page. Now, if you don't know where this page is, you can't find it, come out to issuetrak.com, go to features and click on What's New right there. And you can see at the top, we've got a nice little article about Azure AD, but then we're also going to talk about these UI enhancements. It's been a while since we made really drastic improvements to our interface. And coming soon, in our 12.9 release, we're going to see some changes to the way issues are laid out. This is going to affect anybody that logs into Issuetrak and views issues, right? So that's pretty much anybody that can hear my voice, plus all of your folks that are logging in and viewing issues inside the system. Now that's a big change. That's a lot of people that are going to be affected by these changes. So you want to make sure you're kind of ahead of this, that you know these changes are coming with the 12.9 release. And you can see we've got a lot of information about what's going on right here. And I had a couple of these screenshots here. Let me see if I can bring these up. These are kind of mock-ups that we used kind of to demonstrate, and I had the guy that created those, I had him kind of send those over to me so we could get a little closer look. Let me see if I can zoom that in here. And as you guys can see, things are getting ready to make a huge change here at Issuetrak, right? You can see that all of the fields are lined up across that left margin, and that all of the field labels are, and now all of the fields are going to be lined up too. But there's some other changes that are coming as well, right? We've ditched the top banner. We're also going to make some changes to our menuing, including this big right-hand menu here. Now, we've got a larger article about this in our blog, right? Like I said, this is a great time to start reading the Issuetrak blog. And I would hope that everybody that can hear me is clicking on blog right now, right? So you can see, and coming soon, a new way to integrate Issuetrak. And I've already got that blog post open right here, right? You can see. Now, some of the things we're doing, right? We're getting ready to re-image the issue view page. The issue submit page is going to affect the way everybody sees issues. We're also going to split out that menu. We've got this nice little tool that talks about exactly what the changes are, so you can ease your users through these changes, right? And everything that you're used to seeing in Issuetrak is still going to be there. The problem, the thing is, it's just might be in a different place. So let me talk about a few of these here, and I'm going to just walk through some of this. Now, you can see we've got a nice interactive display. I wanted to speak to this because it looks pretty good, works really well. It's a great place to send your users so they don't get messed up by the new layout. You just click on the targets and it talks about what we've changed. So you can see, remove the banner. Here we've still got the issue search bar, works the same as it does now. It's not a new feature, that's always been there. But we're just putting it in giving it a new home. We've got a static left-hand menu, which is what we have now, but we're going to change the options that are in there because we're going to bring in a contextual and jump to menu on the right-hand side. Then we're going to bring in a user-defined bookmark section. Now, this is new, right? This is something we don't have now. It's going to allow users to save their own bookmarks. And let me read the little piece that we wrote about that. Where was it? The users can now create personalized bookmarks of their most accessed Issuetrak pages. You can organize the links you need to get to where you need to at the click of a button. Right, and let me kind of bring this up and we'll talk through it a little bit here. So the left menu is now going to be a static menu. The menu options appear based on your site's features and individual permissions. These options will remain the same no matter where you are in Issuetrak. We put a new issue button at the bottom of the left menu, so that's kind of going to be in a different place, where it's always visible and accessible. The search bar is now at the top of the left menu, centralizing everything issue focused into one location. And users can now create the personalized bookmarks that I've already talked about. We have a question. So I think
you want me to answer these questions?
Yeah, I think we need to have Dan answer these questions because I can't really speak to that. That's kind of more you, sir.
Sure. There's a few things to clarify. So thank you, Travis, for pointing out. What you're seeing right here is multiple releases combined in one. The issue screen changes on the previous screenshot that was inside the 2 new bars. Those will be coming in 12.9 amongst other items. You can see exactly what's contained in our February release on our product roadmap. But we're expecting 12.9 to release in this month in February, including the issue screen changes amongst many other changes. To note in the issue screen changes, we're maximizing the amount of space you can use. We are aligning it to the left. We're increasing this section header breaks so that you can form a more visually appealing form for your users to fill out or your customers, and really prioritizing the space. Other things in February are obviously listed there. Updates to Azure AD, other configuration improvements, and some other deployment items. The UI changes, the majority of the changes where you're seeing the UI change for navigation and menuing, those are going to be coming in spring. If I'm honest, it's probably an early April release, but it's going to depend on a few changes and feedback we hear from our customers. So in this case, this is the first time we're publicly speaking about the UI changes. And Paul, if you don't mind jumping back to the blog images real fast and to optimize some time here.
Sure.
We're making several changes, as you pointed out. The left menu is now static. There's some logo improvements. You now have a navigation menu on the right, the convenience of some jump to functionality, and a lot of prioritization on how quickly you can get to things, less page switching and refreshing, more context on the screen, and really allowing you to prioritize your workflow with the brand new feature that we call Bookmarks, which will essentially allow you to favorite any page within the entirety of the application. An example use case is, let's say you have to constantly do a user search or an org search. You can favorite or bookmark that page, and it'll always be one click away for you on the left. We know a lot of those workflows are important, and sometimes it can be hard to get to them. If you scroll to the next screenshot here, the other major change amongst several others, let's go to the next one as well, is the new settings. If you're familiar with Issuetrak now, when you hit the gear, the left menu completely disappears, completely changes, and you lose your context. You can't get to those options easily, and then you're stuck scrolling through a long list of things. Well, we've prioritized, how you visually interface with what features are turned on and how you get to them. And no longer are you having to lose your context, whatever page you are on or menu settings you need. We're really prioritizing the number of clicks. And these changes are coming from years of feedback from our customers on how they like to use our product and what's important to them. And that's really what we're here for today. John and I are here to see if you have any impressions or longstanding complaints or thoughts on some of this initial delivery. We still are a few months out from delivering this in full and have the opportunity to prioritize customer needs. We've given a lot of care and thought into how we lay this out and how it can be used to optimize your workflows and save you time. And we're here to answer any questions or dive into some of the layers that is necessary. We do hope to do an entire webinar on every facet of this in the near future so that we can cover all the unique changes. That's an important thing because there's a lot to discuss more than just these surface images show. So with that, if there's anything I missed, John or Paul can speak, come in here, or we can answer questions. We do want to make sure we're paying attention to people's time.
No, nothing to add. I think you did a good job of summing up everything, Dan and Paul. We have gone through some extensive user testing of these updates internally. What you're seeing here now is after several iterations and tests and a lot of experimentation internally to find kind of the right flow, the right setup. Another aspect of this too is really just kind of updating and modernizing our UI. We do have some parity, feature parity, and visual parity with other applications, but in some cases you just needed a little bit of fine tuning and a little bit of improvement. And we really feel like these changes bring a nice balance to the way Issuetrak looks and feels, and really gives it a fresh kind of modern look. So we're really excited about it.
Well, I, for one, to dig in here before we kind of really open this up for questions, I would want to say thank you to our management team. That's right there, and our product owner and our dev team and all the folks that work so hard to kind of bring these changes to fruition. And I look forward to seeing them put into the product. Thanks for coming today, guys, and thanks for helping us answer questions about this. So what have we got for questions, Mike and Tony?
Jennifer just put in another kind of
Yes,
not
sir.
really a question, but she went ahead and she's had a suggestion in there. Love to be able to search for the asset numbers in the search issue number or the subject box. So it's a good feedback for us to receive. And we really appreciate any feedback you want to put into that question and answer section in there, because we can go ahead and study that after the session and get back to you if we need to for any other response. So please add as much as you can, either there or in the chat, whichever you prefer. I tend to want it in question and answer if possible for this session, but whichever way you get us the information, we'll try to respond to you.
That is a great request to put the search of the asset number.
Be nice to see.
John and I are the right audience to see these requests as well. So
That is for sure. Yep.
All right, Mike, and be respectful of everybody's time.
Mhm.
All the attendees, they know how to engage us individually, so we don't have to have dead air. They routinely engage us with questions and suggestions, so you can keep those coming that way. To respect people's time, if we could go ahead and start the wrap up. Appreciate Mike Dan and John for jumping in, changing up the webinar a little bit.
good to be here. Thank you, guys.
And thank you.
Thanks for coming. So
You're
before we
always
let 'em-
welcome. Well, folks, let's go ahead and wrap this thing up and shut it down. If you've got anything else you want to send to us, you can go ahead and send it out to the support team. You see the addresses there on the link there in the feedback. Please go ahead and send that, or send it out directly to us. Of course, mike.wright@issuetrak.com, tony.lovelace@issuetrak.com, or paul.harris@issuetrak.com. You can always send us an email directly to those addresses, and we'll be happy to respond back. And thank you a lot for your feedback. Issuetrak's built on a lot of feedback from our customers, and features come a lot of times from you. So thank you for that. And we look forward to being able to do something for us. We'll look forward to the March webinar. Remember, second Thursday of next month, we'll have another webinar. Title to be released in the email that'll follow, but we probably will be doing users. John, I see you got your hand up. Do you have something you would like to say?
Yeah, one last thing. And I don't know who's the host right now, so I'm about to put that person on the spot.
Thank you.
Would you be, if possible, and you don't have to do this, but we do have our product feedback page on the website.
Mhm.
And I want to mention too, a couple things. Just this week, we updated our roadmap with information about what to expect in March. And the reason why I'm kind of bringing both the roadmap and the feedback page up is because everything you'll see in March are improvements to the issue hub. Every single one of those improvements came from a piece of feedback we received from this form right here. So everything that's coming next month is stuff that our customers have requested. So we're listening. We're trying to be very actively responsive to the feedback that comes in. So I highly encourage everyone, if you have something, obviously you can reach out to the people here, but you can also feel free to come to this form. It comes directly to myself and Dan and another member of the product team, Lisa, and we review that stuff constantly. And we're also, in addition to this, we also, not related to the product, we got a piece of company feedback about how great it would be to be more, to announce more when we do update the roadmap, since we are updating it more frequently. And you don't have to do this, Mike, because I'm not going to put you on the spot by going to Twitter, but we are going to start posting on our Twitter profile when we update the roadmap. So for example, this morning we announced that we've updated the roadmap with everything from March. So if you want to know specifically when we update this, a good place to follow would be our social channels like on Twitter and LinkedIn as well. So just wanted to call attention to these things before we end it today.
Thank you for that, John. We really do appreciate that.
All right, I would say to get to those pages, come to issuetrak.com, scroll to the bottom of the page, and there's some quick links right down here for product feedback, and product roadmap.
All right, then let's wrap this up, guys, and say thank you everyone for attending. Hopefully we can have some of you attend next month. If you have any feedback that you want to give us on any of the features, please use the Issuetrak feedback form, or any new ideas that you would like to share. Just use that same form. John and Dan are looking forward to hearing from you. So we want to thank you again, and we will have a until next time, we will say goodbye.
Bye, everybody.